Good morning. Y'all can do better than that. Come on. Good morning. All right, everybody wake up. Wake up. I just finished going through a missed presentation that I thought I was going to fall asleep through, but I didn't. They did a good job. So this is Let's Hack. Pretty simple. We're going to talk about some hacking principles, cybersecurity, some different things. We're not going to. I'm going to try not go too deep, but talk about some things. Maybe it'll provoke some thoughts, some conversations internally in your districts and your networks. Think about things in a different way. If you have a question, by all means, interject. I'm not real formal. I'm not going to worry about it. I will ask for questions at the end, so you can either ask it at the time or you can wait, ask it at the end. My name is Corey Good. I'm Network Administrator for Barron County Schools. I've been doing this started as a technician, working part-time, going to school, finished my associate's degree actually just a few years ago, but got some certs, nothing groundbreaking, nothing major, but I've been doing this for about 20 years between being a tech, being network admin, been around K-12 ed tech. I can remember several times over the years where the statement was, "Oh, we'll never need more than that," or "We'll never ever," those definitives always come back to bite you, and that's something I've learned is to not say never. So let's talk about hacking principles. The first one, and this is really small on my screen. Yeah, the first one, reconnaissance, and this is true whether you're defending, whether you're attacking, whether you're just doing your day-to-day. You got to know what you have, what you're attacking, what your target is, what you're defending. You got to know your inventory, your software, your hardware, all of that stuff. If you don't know about it, how can you attack it or how can you defend it? And so there's a couple of different things with that. You're going to gather info about the network, the systems in place, the software, the versions, the different things there. What individuals are there? What are their tendencies? What are their habits? With reconnaissance, you've got passive and active are your primary categories. If you've watched any kind of hacking stuff, you've probably heard of OSINT, and it's open source intelligence gathering. Stuff like LinkedIn, Facebook, corporate websites, district websites. Those are great places to find out what are mascots and what are things that people might use for their passwords. You go on somebody's LinkedIn and they're a VMware 6.0 certified administrator. You can bet your bottom dollar they probably use VMware in their server environment. So if you know some hacks for VMware, then that gives you a place to focus your efforts. If they're a SQL 2022 database admin, certified database admin, then there you go. So if you look at security stuff, you'll see a lot of security professionals who'll tell you, don't put everything on your LinkedIn. Don't put everything on your Facebook. Other passive stuff that you can do. And what passive basically means is these are things that I can do that my target has no clue that I'm doing. They have no way to know that I'm looking at them, that I'm focused on them. Whois is another one. You can go out to there's a site AIRN.net, and if you've got an IP address or a domain name or a company name, you can look up and find out what their public IP space is. And so all the time we'll get suspicious login requests or internet filter stuff, stop tip lines, and they're like, did they submit this from home? Did they submit this? Is this legit? Is this whatever? You can go and plug an IP address into that, and it'll tell you immediately who owns that IP, what ISP, what company, whoever that's attached to, and give you kind of a general idea of where that traffic generated from. We've had here lately, we've had a myriad. One of the was it Canva? There was a breach recently that had a bunch of ed tech usernames and passwords in it. And we've had a bunch of suspicious login attempts, trying to hit and log in as student accounts. And 60, 70, 80% of them were disabled accounts, but they were still trying to log in, and Google was flagging it. And we started pulling IP addresses, and they were, Zimbabwe, Russia, Africa, all these different places overseas, that I'm like, that's not our kids. Those accounts are disabled, and there's nobody over there trying to log into their Gmail in the third grade. Now, I wish Google didn't send me alerts on disabled accounts because I don't care as much about those, but they did. Google dorking or Google hacking. I put dorking because I think it's kind of an odd term, but really I've always called it Google hacking. Well, I'm going to show some stuff about that. That's something that you can do right now today, and it's a little bit alarming. I've done it a few times over the years of our domain, our websites, and it's a little eye opening, and we'll get into it more in a minute. And then active. Active is if you're actively scanning them, fingerprinting them. What systems, what OSs, what services, what protocols, what ports are open. That's where you get into. If you're an attacker or an ethical hacker trying to evade detection, you've got to be careful because that's where you're going to start leaving a trace. That's where intrusion detection systems and things like that are going to start picking up your traffic. And if you go too hard, too fast, it's going to throw some red flags and go, oh, that IP is spamming every IP in our network, scanning all ports. That's going to raise red flags somewhere. Somebody's going to see that probably, or maybe they don't. And then that's a whole different conversation. So Google hacking, aka Google dorking. This is advanced search operators that you can put into Google that crazily increase your ability to drill down and find hidden stuff that is out there, public on the web, that you could go to your corporate website, your district website, and browse and scan and never, ever find it. But it's there because Google crawls everything. You can do file type, so you can do PDF, JPEG, any file type that you can list. If it is linked, if it is published to your website, Google has it in its cache and you can pull it up. And even if the file has been taken down recently, sometimes you can get data out of Google's cached images or cached versions of those files. This could be, personnel documents, reports and stuff. Maybe they got shared, published, the wrong file got copied in. I recommend periodically running some of these against your own district. Let me pull all these up here. I should have changed the order. So you can target it to site, and you can say site:/site:/barron.kyschools.us. And then I can go and say in URL. So this is going to look up at the URL for any words you put in there. So I can say site barron.kyschools.us in URL login. Let me see all the pages that are public on the web under that domain name that have a login prompt that I could try to log into. And I'm going to jump out here and probably break my presentation that we spent so much time getting in. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to Google. I'm going to show this live and in color. Yeah. Here's showing my dirty laundry here. Let's do. No. Let's forget all that. Site, and we're going to do barron.kyschools.us. And that brings up, anything with our domain name. And then we're going to do in URL login. Now ours, and this is one that I was not aware of this. I ran it the other day. This is our eStub. If somebody breaks into that, that's a bad day, because that's going to have social security numbers, pay rates, lots of proprietary information. Now, granted, I mean it's not going to just give you that info, but it's there for somebody to now try and poke at and try to get into it. And so, I've ran this before. I shouldn't have closed that, but if you saw one of my searches, I did a search for in URL kyschools.us, or not in site kyschools.us in text. So in text is going to show you the text of the web page, and search the word directory. Our website, and lots of your websites probably have this, used to have staff directory. Find your teacher, find your district personnel. That's great. Connect to the community. Except now you've just handed the fishers a playbook of all the people with their schools, their job titles, all their positions to say, spam me, try to get me to buy iTunes gift cards for my principal, who I think that's who I'm talking to, when really it's not. It's, some dude somewhere trying to steal money. We used to get several. And it was very targeted. And I was like, it has to be from the website. Now, whether it was or not, I don't know for sure. But I know it has dropped to almost nothing of this type once we removed it from the website. We would get emails and it would go, our quarantine filter, if you impersonate one of our users, it catches a lot of those. But we would get those in the quarantine, and it would be to all the staff listed on the website at a particular building, impersonating the principal of that building, saying, hey, I'm working on something, can't talk right now, email me back here, need your help with something. It's urgent, all the typical scam things. And a few times somebody would start to engage with them, and then they would be like, whoa, wait a minute. And they would eventually caught it. To my knowledge, I think somebody went as far as to buy a gift card, but they didn't actually purchase it or give them the code. But they would always be like, yeah, we're working on a reward or something. Buy a gift card for me, and then I'll pay you back, or we'll reimburse you. And so a lot of people trusting, seeing the name, not investigating it, would be duped by that. That query, I'm going to go back and pull it up. Walk on this cat rope again. Let's see. Let's do incognito. You don't see all my secrets. Oh, Lord, don't do that. Don't go to that site. I don't know what that site is. Let's go to the right one. Google. And we're going to do site, not Barron. And so what I got with the people that manage our website, I was like, I don't mind you having everybody's name. That's pretty basic. But I was like, take the email address off of there. And what they ended up doing, we're with our website's with Aptigee. They put email me a web form where you click it, type in your name, your email, and then your message, and then it sends a system message from them through their server. And that scrubs that a little bit. We still get some spam stuff, but it comes through. They know that it came from the website. It's not a original email straight to their email address. So we'll do site.kyschools. We'll do in text. And a lot of times these work better if you wrap them in quotes. Help if I get my keys right. Directory. Well, yeah, faculty and staff directory. Here's Jefferson County. We'll pick on them. They're big. They can handle it. So there's a bunch of people that I could now try. If I'm a spammer or a fisher, I could try and target these people. And I know that she's an assistant principal, Sherry Harris. I go down here, student support services team. And it gives you a bunch of targets that you could try to attack. Now, there's, with anything with security, there's usability and security, and you have to balance that out. But we're giving away too much information on our websites, and this is one of those aspects. Another one is password. If you've got a how-to doc and it's like the default password is, then that's easily found using this technique. Another one is index of. And I looked last night or the night before last, and there weren't very many that had this, but sometimes, let's get up here, you'll get, in the title. So this will search just the title of the web page, and we'll do index of. You may have, and a lot of these came up with dead links, but like you may have let's see if we can find one that was live. I looked to see, you may have documents that are in a web directory and you're like, well, that's not linked anywhere, so it's okay. If you can type the URL into your browser and pull it up without logging in, see this one, they don't have a valid cert. And so here's all these pictures. They may not be linked anywhere, but I can access them and see what the lunch menu is, and it may be nothing, it may not matter, and that's fine. But it may be proprietary, sensitive information that you didn't know was out there public on the web, that you need to go and turn off directory browsing on a web server or something. So that's reconnaissance. Let's move on to enumeration. Okay, so I've got my IP range. I know who I'm attacking, who I'm defending, whatever. Well, how am I gonna find out what what specifics, what IPs, what services, that sort of thing? And this bridges with active reconnaissance, but Nmap is an amazing tool. It'd help if I get rid of my demonstration there. Nmap is an amazing tool that has I could do an entire 3-hour session on Nmap, or else somebody could. I'm not as experienced with Nmap to be able to talk that long about it. But that command right there, it's Nmap, and then there's switches, and it tells you that with Nmap you can do different types. You can do just a very just a very small shot across the bow to see what comes back, or you can do a very active walk up, shake their hand, talk to them, interface with the computer. And that's where you start tripping alarms and bells. But this was one of our old security cameras, and I ran it against that one target. Now you can run it against an entire range of IPs, and I gave it the script to run. It comes with a scripting engine embedded into the product that vulners is it goes out and looks at all these known vulnerabilities and the fingerprints, the services, the ways, the versions that those are executed, and it tests that target to see if they're if they can be exploited with that, and then it kicks back exploit. So everywhere you see the red exploit word is a method that somebody could try and hack into that security camera. And you may say, well, I don't care about my security cameras. As long as I can see the video, I don't care. What are they going to do? They're going to watch us? Your security cameras are a computer that run a web server, have a processor, network card, everything. So if they get into your security camera, they can use that. They can create a botnet within your network to attack you internally. Once they're in, they're in. But this one, I've added grep just to cut down because it tests for thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities that you could never do on your own one by one, not in this lifetime anyway. There's a lot of other tools, port scanners, different things, service identifiers, but Nmap is probably the predominant one. If you look at any kind of hacking stuff, it's the one that you'll find most often referenced for that sort of thing. And it can kick this stuff out to a report, CSV, whatever. You can have it kick out a list of IPs that had exploits in them into a CSV that then you can feed into another program to start doing attacks. Exploitation. Now, we've got our target. We found something that's exploitable. What are we going to use to attack that? How do we run this? Do I have to write a program myself? No. Metasploit is a lot of your hackers would refer to that as a script kiddie, but ed tech people don't have enough time to learn to code this stuff on their own and do everything else that we're expected to do. But Metasploit's a framework that has thousands of exploit packages and things, payloads, pre-configured, pre-set up to run, and it even gives you tools to receive data back, to exfiltrate data. I mean, it is like the hacker's toolbox. And you can see right here, 2,487 exploits, 1,466 payloads, and 9 evasions that are just included by just running a simple install command. Or this screenshot is from, I just downloaded a Kali install VM. Takes about 10 minutes to bring it in, turn it on, set it up, and you're up and going and can start hacking something. Yes. I'm sure there's outfits that offer paid services for additional support and GUI services and different things. But yeah, Metasploit itself is free. Kali is free. Privilege escalation. Now we're getting into some of the other deeper stuff. My focus is going to be on these first 3, but I'm going to go over these others. So privilege escalation. I've got in. I'm a basic user, but I can't do anything. Well, you can do a little bit. You can engage with other users. You can engage with the system. You might be able to read a directory, but you can't edit the directory. But that directory might have password hashes. It might have user account data that you can use to try and claw your way up. There may be there may be a flaw in the OS or the kernel that you're on, that if a normal user can run this program, just run it, not install it, not doing it, just run it, that then it breaks the OS and lets you have admin. That's why doing your updates and all that, doing all the things, the cleaning your laundry and putting on, as Steve says, clean underwear in a car wreck, they're all important, because at some point, the hacker just has to be right once. You have to be right all the time if you're defending. Maintain access. Metasploit helps with that. I'm going to go through these quickly because I've got some other stuff here that I want to show you. Covering your tracks. You've hacked into a system, and there's logs of that. This IP connected, this IP ran this service, read this file, whatever. Well, if you can delete those logs, if you, with Windows, you could delete the application logs, security logs, those things, but that still leaves a trace, because it'll show, well, that log was deleted and cleared on this day. What happened? There's tools that will let you delete individual events. So you can say delete, the last 10 events and leave everything else. Well, that makes it harder to detect when somebody's been in your system doing stuff. Post exploitation. Bob Hackworth in his session, if you're in that, he talked about this a little bit. And this goes back to the identification, knowing what you've got. What data do you have that's publicly available? Google hacking is a way to figure that out. But if you've got data public on the internet, if you've got data shared, if you don't have any way to know when data is shared publicly, then a hacker who gets in, even if they don't even break into your systems, but they log into somebody's Google account or their Microsoft account, and they've got scanned documents that aren't shared, and all they got to do is click share, get the URL, and now they can go download that stuff, and they've got it. And if you don't have any DLP stuff, which I don't know what Microsoft's has, but I guarantee you they have something. Google has some DLP alerts that'll tell you, hey, social security numbers are shared, driver's license numbers, different. They've got a bunch of pre-canned ones, and then I think you can do your own custom ones if you have a certain pattern of a data type that you want it to look for. It'll look through anything that's shared and send you an alert. You can have it block that sharing. You can have it warn the user and says, hey, this is possibly sensitive data. Are you sure you want to do this? Manipulate systems. Metasploit has tools for that. The most common one that I see with that I've dabbled in this, and then I've watched a bunch of YouTubers do this, but is a reverse shell. You get onto a system, you get it to execute a script, a program, whatever, and what that thing does is it basically opens a command line prompt back to your machine, to where now when you run those commands in that prompt, instead of them running on your machine, they run on the target machine. And so you're just sitting at a text prompt, DOS prompt, whatever, typing, shut down, restart, whatever the command may be, and the remote system executes that command, does whatever you tell it to do based on the credentials that it was executed with under. And something like that, somebody could be actively using the machine, and it's just a process under the task manager. They're never going to know unless they're browsing through and like, what's that? If they're just browsing Facebook, Infinite Campus, whatever, they're never going to know that you're actively on their machine at the same time as them. Social engineering. This is one I wanted to do a live social engineering exercise today when I first was going to present, but there's a lot of implications with that. I don't want to embarrass somebody. I don't want to embarrass a district. I don't think I could do it within my own district. I can't inform somebody ahead of time, hey, I'm gonna social engineer you, and our district's small enough so many people know me. They're going, oh, hey, Corey, just by my voice, I'm not going to be able to get one over them. But, part of our beginning of the year training, our communications with our staff needs to include aspects and elements of, don't give out information without verification, of who you're giving it to. Ask for those things that they wouldn't know unless they're legitimately who they are supposed to be or who they say they are. Because I would bet money, I don't know that I could do it, but I would bet money a good social engineer expert could call any of our districts and talk their way into proprietary sensitive data in probably 1 or 2 phone calls with very little information that's probably available on either a news website or your district website. And that goes back to the directory one. You give them names, titles, and school locations. You could call and pretend to be an elementary teacher from one school, calling another school and saying, "Hey, we're doing XYZ, and we're having this trouble. How have you guys handled that?" And they're, "Oh, well, here, let me tell you all about it." And then you could work your way into something a little more sensitive, and all of a sudden now you've got a breach, and now you've got to call the security team and go, "We had a breach." Defense evasion. This one I don't really worry about too much because of the security team, the firewall, antivirus, some of that stuff. But there are viruses, malware, there are exploits out there that they have a competition at DEF CON every year, and it is I can't remember what they call it, but basically the idea is a fully up-to-date system, all the latest patches, the latest browser updates, and can you hack into a system with just that browser loading a web page? The user clicks on nothing except opening the web page, and every year they bust through the latest versions of Chrome and stuff. And so there are tools out there, there are tools unknown out there that somebody could be using against us. And you may think, for years the mindset's been, well, we're education, we're not a target. But as everybody knows, and in Bob's session, he showed where in like 2015 we had, I don't remember how many billions of cyber attacks, and then 2020 it was triple that, and then 2023 it was like 10 times that amount. Education has two things that hackers and criminals want, and that is sensitive data, names, dates of birth, social security numbers, especially on children who checks a fifth grader's credit report. But if you can get in and get that data and you start, using their credit, you could run up, all kinds of stuff, and they're not going to find that for years, possibly. And then the other thing that education has is money. Now we can't just hand it out, but we get grants, we get state funding, federal funding, all these different things that have stipulations on them and stuff like that. And so, that's why you've probably heard what's the different pot of money? Well, the hackers don't care. They'll impersonate whoever, and if they dupe your people into sending a wire transfer to an account number that's very different from an account you actually do business with, once they've got the money, they're gone. They don't care, and then you're left to pick up the pieces. And we've had attacks targeted to our payroll people, to our finance people, where they were trying to impersonate a staff member and say, "I want to change my direct deposit info," and to the point where we have made it district policy that those documents have to be filled out in person at the district office without special exception, or a wire transfer cannot be confirmed by leadership via like electronic communications. They have to confirm it in person or via a phone call, because we've had a couple of instances where an email came in impersonating the super, didn't get caught by our filters, and it was, "Hey, trying to get this, pay this bill, pay this whatever, transfer this, here's this invoice." And if you're a bigger district, it's going to be easier for those things to slip through the cracks. When I was doing my associate's degree, we had to do a data analysis project, and I did mine on cybersecurity, IC3, the FBI's internet crime database of losses and damages. And the number one, by like billions of dollars, the number one internet crime was business email compromise. And that was basically where either somebody's account got hacked or impersonated, and they duped someone into doing a wire transfer to a fake business that was one digit off from a legitimate business who the company did business with. And it was like, I think over a 5-year span, it went from like hundreds of millions to billions to almost $3 billion in I think it was 2020 was the last year of data that I had to use for that. But going back to hacking principles, defense evasion, Kenny and Wesley and the security team, I call Wesley out because I see him back there. They do a great job. I don't worry as much if at all, about somebody from the outside coming in, except for our users. If they're duped and they click a link, and we have stuff that gets through, we catch a lot of stuff. But if they click on a link, run a file, open a file, that's where I feel like we're most vulnerable from outside. But inside, we have a lot of smart kids in our districts, a lot of kids, and a lot of this stuff is easily accessible through YouTube videos. And you know what they've got plenty of? Time. And if they've got enough determination, the tools get easier and easier every year. The accessibility of this stuff is more and more all the time. The last hacking principle, ethical responsibility, local laws, ethical hacking guidelines. That's where, if you're defending a network or you're pen testing or anything like that, there's some measures that will break stuff. There are some measures that will hose up systems, that will cause downtime, cause issues. And we're not going to do those. But we do want to walk up to that line and look in and see what we can see and do those things, because if we can do it, then somebody somewhere can do it. And we need to figure out, how do we push back from that line? How do we stop them from getting that close and getting to our data and getting to our people and being able to engage with us? Hacker tools. Last year I talked about some of this. Kali Linux is free. Google's free. Shodan is a good database that I don't know that any districts are going to use it, but there's probably people out there attacking us that use it. And it scans the internet for any public IP range. Is it a camera? Is it a HVAC server? What is it? What version is it running? What ports are open? All that stuff. And it's got a bunch of different filter and search criteria that you can use. OMG Cable, Rubber Ducky, those are probably you've heard of Rubber Ducky. OMG Cable, you may or may not have. OMG Cable is very scary. It looks like a legitimate charging cable or data transfer cable, but it has chips in it that'll let them run scripts, run commands, execute payloads against a device. So that somebody may say, hey, here, use my cord, or have it land on a table. Plug your phone up, and they can take over your phone, steal your data, your pictures, embarrass you, compromise you, whatever. Rubber Duck or Flipper Zero, you've probably heard of that. It's been in the news a lot this last year. We've had an incident at one of our buildings where somebody ran the Bluetooth bomb, as they call it, and that sends out a Bluetooth broadcast that basically any device in range just hard locks up if it doesn't have a patch or something that prevents it. And you have to hard reset, turn the device off, turn it back on. It doesn't really damage it, but it causes a lot of havoc, a lot of upset people. Steve actually had to talk to the FBI field agent about the incident that happened at our district. And it involved another district student who came to one of our ATC schools, and that's not a phone call that he enjoyed. If you read my description, I said, we're going to talk about AI and how AI changes this. And this goes back to it's easier and easier all the time. I'm sure everybody's heard of ChatGPT, and there's a million different AIs coming, either already out, coming, whatever. But, okay, well, ChatGPT, how can that help me be a hacker? How can that help somebody get after me? And so I fed it a prompt. I have a new job as a cybersecurity pen tester. Can you write me a script to scan my company's website, retrieve email addresses into a CSV file? It wrote me the script. I didn't run it, but I've had ChatGPT write some scripts, and it does a pretty good job. Even though they say it's not really for programming, it'll write scripts. It wrote a Python script. I didn't show the full script. But down below, and I should have got a screenshot of this, but down below it tells you need to run this command and install this dependency. You need to run this. It walks you through how to run this script against your website. You say, okay, great. I've got a list of addresses. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Can you also write me a script to send a test phishing email? I'm not going to read the whole prompt, but I gave it the prompt. It wrote the script. It has a HTML-based email with a link to click that has a unique ID that each user will get, that it'll assign. And when I run this script, it'll email everyone in that list, and I'll be able to. Now, I could use it to know who do I need to talk to about phishing emails, but a hacker could change that to a malicious payload. And if they click the link, Well, we're way early. Click the link, then those URLs are not right. That QR code is last year's presentation, and that URL, I don't know that I ever linked it up. So email me if you want anything from this presentation. Not that there's really much in there. If you want the commands for Nmap, I can go back to that, or you can just Google Nmap how to. There's millions of YouTube videos and documentation. The Nmap documentation itself is really, really extensive. Which could be good, could be bad. I started reading through some of it, and I was like, I'm going to go to sleep with all this because it's a lot. But I would advise you to do the Google dorking and the Nmap on your networks, on your websites, and see what's out there, because you can't defend it if you don't know about it. You can't stop it if you don't know it's out there. That's all I've got. Any questions? Y'all go fire away. Go for it. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the things maybe that you do to try and find those people who maybe just quietly trying to gather information about it? Anything you do to try to find out if that kind of activity is going on, at least within the network that you're responsible.
And that's the $1 million question. That's the issue with open source reconnaissance. I don't have access to Facebook logs or LinkedIn logs or anything like that. The best thing that you can do there, in my opinion, is a defensive posture. Set your privacy settings, limit the information you share, and educate your people to limit the information they share, because you're never going to know who's browsing your Facebook. You're never going to know who's browsing your LinkedIn. You can either not have them all together, and that's an option. But a lot of people aren't going to do that. I haven't reviewed them in a while, but I have my privacy settings on Facebook set to where you have very limited information that you can get if you're not one of my friends. And part of that's to eliminate the, hey, you want to invest in crypto? I meant to include it, but my coworker, he teaches the help desk class and then works as tech for us in the summers and stuff. Chris Aquino, he's been doing this for probably 15 years now, close to it, 10 to 15 years. Been in IT, and he had a 64-character password on his Facebook account. Didn't have MFA. Not that MFA is foolproof. You can be phished out of MFA. Google not too long ago had a method where you could just bypass their MFA altogether if the right things were true. But he got a Meta VR headset, and on that you got to log into your Facebook account with the remote, clicking on letters in the sky. He was like, I'm not doing 64 characters with this. So he changed his password down to a short 8-character password to log into the Meta headset. But he made 2 mistakes. He didn't change it back immediately, and he changed it to one that he knew, that I don't know if he knew it at the time, but it was in a known data breach. And within, I think he said 6 hours, or by the next morning, they'd already took his account, hacked his account, logged into his account, changed the password, added their email, started pushing him out. And the killer, the death knell of it, he still does not own the account now. He's tried and tried and tried. He's probably spent 30, 40 hours engaging, trying to get it back. And Facebook is beyond unhelpful. But they put MFA on it, and he can't get past the MFA, and you can't remove the MFA without full access or admin access or whatever. But so now they have taken his account and put out, hey, it's been a long journey. I'm now certified Bitcoin expert, and have started trying to set up the profile to engage with people to say, why don't you invest with me and I'll get you Bitcoin. They've been posting stuff on his account of people who've paid off, $400,000 mortgage in 6 months and stuff. And right now I'm like, nobody's going to believe that, but there will be somebody somewhere that they'll catch at the right time, the right circumstances, and be able to get that money out of them. But yeah, so my answer to your question is there's not one. Unfortunately, there's not, and it's just a matter of limit the information And you know, mhm. Yeah. One thing I didn't go in. One thing I didn't go into. So the script that ChatGPT wrote for me to scrub the website for emails, you can have those set up to run on interval and then flag changes. And so you can have it run today, run tomorrow, run. And so with that, and that may be what they did. I don't know. It could just be coincidence that they hit us periodically or whatever. But you could have it run daily against the target, and then as soon as a change comes in, immediately turn around and hit that target because they may be new and inexperienced and trying not to upset the apple cart, be duped into something because they're just not, they're new, fresh, inexperienced, and you may be able to get something over on them. And so, from a standpoint of training and defending, that may be something. If you're going to do any kind of education program, staff onboarding is 5 days after they're onboarded, you may want to hit them with an internal phishing test and say, did they get duped or not, and then re-educate and talk to them. I watched a couple different security experts, and one of them talked about when he worked in the red team department, a QA department for a company, a Fortune 500 company. They came to him and wanted to know. He had to socially engineer the tech support people, the client support people, and see, could he get proprietary data? Could he get more than he should have? These are people who the public would engage with at this company. And they came to him and was like, we want to know who failed. And he was like, no. And they're like, well, you got to tell us who failed, and because they were going to fire them. And what he advocated for was, let's educate them. Let's not fire them. And he said, and the other thing is, people that have been in their job for a long time, what he saw was the people who were there 3 months did great. People who were there a year or more were more likely to be duped because they were complacent. And I feel like all of us here probably have experienced that, or have staff that, you may get into a routine and, just think everything's automatic. I know what I'm doing. And when you least expect it, all it takes is one time. Right. Oh, it was last week, I think. Within 2 weeks. The email was records transfer, and they sent it to our counselors, and it was people who were in this compromised accounts email history. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, what is this you sent me? we've been fortunate. Now, if anybody's been compromised, that unfortunately, we probably don't know it if they've been compromised, because otherwise I'd tell you about it. But we've had we've had a lot of users email us and say, "Hey, I got this weird email. You care?" And every time, Steve and I are very big in the whole office, but we're like, "Yeah, send it to me. I'll look at it. Send me a screenshot. Send me whatever." We make it a concerted effort never to belittle or talk down to them about that stuff, because if you do, while it may be annoying, you may be like, "Oh, it's the 1,000th one I've had this month," but if you talk to them that way, they'll stop telling you, and eventually they'll click on it, and you'll be out of luck and stuff. So they constantly feel okay and feel secure enough to engage with us and say, "Hey, is this legit?" And we'll look at it and tell them, say, "No, it's not." And that's just a relationship we fostered with our users over time, that I'd advise anyone in here to work towards that end. That's all I have. I think just a few minutes left. If you guys got any more questions, let me know, or you can come up and email me anything. As Steve's in the CIO Summit, he's very big on a rising tide lifts all ships. Thank you all.